What's up guys, Americano back here with another video. As most of you know, crypto has not been very fun lately. We've covered the bear case in this market, we've shown the bearish charts, but in this video let's talk about two things that should make you hopeful for at least a bounce. Anyways guys, let's get into the video. You don't need me to talk to you or show you anything about Bitcoin's chart. You guys know where it was at in October, you guys know what's happened since then, you guys know how far we pulled back, things like that. You guys know it has been painful. The sentiment in crypto is terrible. The pain is there. The pain is real. People hurting this entire leg down. But I kind of want to show you the cherry on top in this whole situation. And that is crypto is lagging stocks extremely hard. The last time I can think that we lagged this hard was back in late May to early June, around the time that Ethereum was breaking out, showing charts similar to this with all these things stacked up. And I was like, guys, we're like 4 ranges behind the stock market. Stock market pulled up, retested a level, we dropped. Stock market pulled up, we chopped. It started dropping to retest the level. We made new lows, and now we kind of have a similar situation to right here. I'm not saying that when this happens, things instantly have to catch up. You can't just look at every time crypto has lagged the stock market and be like, oh, it's going to catch up, because that's not the case. But when you look at other things in the market, you're looking at other bullish charts, things in the stock market itself looks good. You can kind of allude to, hey, on top of the fact that we have all these other bullish things and we're lagging extremely hard, and we've been lagging for a month, 2 months, 3 ranges, 4 ranges, whatever have you. I'll try to link the video that I made back in June on a similar concept. I'll try to link it below if I can find it, but I kind of just wanted to show this, and we'll run through it real quick. But kind of alluding to this chart exactly right here is why it feels so painful. Stocks are still doing well. What the hell is going on, crypto? Do you want to catch up? Are you going to catch up? Things like that. I even have gold on here. Everything seems to be ripping, or at least going up without us. And I know there's fear in the stock market. That's another thing that we've seen, and kind of a reason to be bullish. We're not going to talk about it in this video, but anyways, that's kind of laying everything out. In blue, we have the NASDAQ. In our little bars here, we have the Dow Jones. I believe what is Russell 2000 is going to be in green. Teal is S&P 500, gold is going to be in orange, and Bitcoin is in maroon. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, right? See these levels, okay? All of these kind of look the same, these stock market charts, right? I'm just pointing to the fact that they're all going up. Even Russell 2000 actually able to clear this most recent high, which S&P, NASDAQ, and actually Dow Jones has cleared it as well. So a little bit of lagging amongst stock indices, but that's not what this video is about. But the point is, let's look back to where this disconnect kind of happened outside of that end of May, early June time that I talked about. So looking back to like August 13th, new all-time high on Bitcoin. Looks like stocks were making new all-time highs as well. Okay, we get a pullback, no big deal. Everything seems to be going on fine. But what happens to stocks in the meantime? August 13th level we're talking about, right? Stocks are able to clear it, no problem. Russell 2000 literally cleared this level in August 13th, and it was back above it by less than 10 days later, 22nd, 23rd. Bitcoin, on the other hand, continued to bleed, right? Stocks grind it up, grind it up, grind it up. Okay, Bitcoin ended up grinding up. This is there's a massive liquidation event in here after the September Fed meeting, but Bitcoin ended up kind of going to tap a new all-time high. That kind of ended up being the top in Bitcoin so far. But if you see this, right, we are grinding up, stocks grinding up, gold grinding up, or really gold kind of starting to explode up. All of these things happening, and Bitcoin just can't seem to get a footing. Can't make and sustain new all-time highs while everything else is. Okay, as soon as we get a pullback and a scare in the market, what do we get in Bitcoin? Massive dump, October 10th, massive liquidations in the altcoin market. You guys know the story, you should never forget that. But Bitcoin giving us just enough room to not go take out these lows on this pullback, but no new all-time highs, no new nothing like that. While this kind of acted as a retest in stock indices, we didn't get all the way back to this level, but retesting these kind of demand levels, retesting these levels, retesting these lows in here, and able to continue on higher. Bitcoin, you guys know the story. Bleed from there, okay? And that's not to say that it was all peaches and rainbows in the stock market. We did bleed lower in here. NASDAQ was able to make a new high before bleeding lower. Looks like everything kind of made a new high and then ended up bleeding lower. Gold went in for, what's been its top since since late October. But the big key, let me zoom in here if I can see if I don't mess up this chart. All right, the big difference is what's happened since then. Okay, we had the Russell 2000 go from $2,300 up to $2,600. We had gold turning up. We had the S&P go from $6,550 to about $6,900. NASDAQ from 24,000 or 24.2 thousand to like, can't really see, 25.4, 25.5. Just can't really see it on the chart. And then Bitcoin, okay, Bitcoin from 87,000 to today's current price is basically 87,000. So you guys see my point. Russell 2000 clearing this range in here. Okay. NASDAQ not able to do it, but let's see what else has. Dow Jones able to clear its range. Looking at right there. However you slice it, right? If we're pulling from the same range as Russell 2000, right? Able to get above that very quickly. All of these stock indices are pointing to basically Bitcoin, or if Bitcoin was to follow them, Bitcoin would at least be right here. So this is 116 to 111. And I know I said in this video, like, hey, like a case to be bullish, a case, some bull cases and things like that. Just based on this chart exactly, that's not a reason for, things don't have to catch up, right? I'm not that ignorant to think that, well, crypto's down however much, stocks are up this much, we have to catch that. I'm just pointing to the fact that a catch-up could be coming, okay? And a catch-up wouldn't be unhealthy in the sense of it wouldn't break my bear case, it wouldn't confirm my bull case. Some sort of catch-up to 116,000, up to 98, things like that. I'm just saying, hey, if we can find other things, which we have in other videos that point to some sort of bounce being able to come in, looking at levels like that, is it a possibility? I think so, okay? Judging by where other things are at in their range, judging by the fact that a lot of these stock indices are still bullish. It's actually a lot easier to be bullish on the stock market now, as fear is still max fear in the stock market. It's still in fear. It's not neutral. It's not greedy. And some of these indices have made new all-time highs. Some of them are like 1-2% off all-time highs, things like that. So if these things can maintain, a catch-up is in order, is my point, okay? If we see here little rollovers in the stock market can hurt us badly, especially when we don't even have the weakness to catch up. Once those things start to catch up, that can be really detrimental to us. But if the stock market can hold up decently well, I don't see why Bitcoin and crypto alike can catch up. All right, I just want to point some things out here. Funding rates across the board, especially on Bitcoin, are negative. Earlier in the day, they were even higher than this. This is not something that you typically see. Okay, when funding goes extremely negative, that means there's a ton of shorts piled in. When it goes extremely positive, that means there is a ton of longs piled in. I'm not saying you can look at funding rates for Pepe and always, but if we're looking for Bitcoin for a general idea of how the market is positioned, and we see negative funding rates, okay, negative funding rate, people are currently paying upwards of 7%, 4%, 2%, 8% a year to open Bitcoin shorts. People are paying 12% a year to open XRP shorts. And when you guys see people paying absurd amounts of money to hold short positions, that means there's a lot of people on the short side of the trade, pointing to, if it does get a bounce, even if it's just shorts closing, even if it's just sweeping some of the, or liquidating some of the shorts, taking some of their stops, things like that, it does point to some sort of bounce coming in. Then when we get that bounce, then we'll see, right? Then we'll know. If it gets to the fibs, we know instantly. Boom, it's a real bounce. Let's go. Cycle like normal. Or it rejects, potential bear market. Let's look for a sell signal. Let's look for this. Let's see if that fractal is playing out. Let's see if we close below the 21-month moving average. All right, guys, now let's look at some liquidation levels. Does this point to the fact that we could be reaching these areas? I think so. This is a bounce to $98,000. I've been telling my Discord, it's pretty much guaranteed that we get some sort of shot at $98,000, whether we look at the fractal, whether we look at liquidity levels, whether we look at support and resistance, whether we look at fib levels, and everything we're kind of pointing to is saying, hey, we are going to get a crack at $98,000. I don't know exactly where it's at. There's the 50-week moving average somewhere in there. Everybody's saying, hey, we're below the 50-week moving average. We have to be in a bear market unless that gets reclaimed or whatever they're saying about it. I think the bigger point is And also another side, right? We've retested that 50-week moving average. That sits somewhere around that $98,000, $96,000 level. Okay, so a lot of things pointing to some sort of bounce coming in, right? We have funding, we have the fact we're lagging, we have liquidation levels, right? This thing was lit up like a Christmas tree earlier. As time goes, it only shows the past month of price action, right? So I don't really get to see liquidity levels from higher, or at least lit up in the same way. But let me show you an example here. Yeah, this thing was lit up like a Christmas tree though. But it doesn't mean these levels are small. So let's just look at the 3-month. I'm going to move myself too, make myself smaller a little bit. But just looking at 3-month liquidation levels, right? To the downside of what is this? $1.1 billion in longs that could be liquidated, right? Even this past weekend. Okay, we had a bunch of longs liquidated. Right? And then each of these lines represent, a liquidated amount of contracts at that level, pointing to 97,000. If we reach $97,000 at this level, there's $273 million in contracts. Sorry, you guys actually can't see this. Well, I don't want to dox myself. Just take my word for it, right? I can show you here. Right, 270, 258. On the side over here, it's telling me $278 million in contracts. And then also at that level is $1.8 billion in shorts. Moving up to like 110, right? Cumulative shorts is like 5 billion, 6 billion here. And then as for the liquidity in these areas, right? $200 million in contracts, $229 million in contracts. Interestingly enough, the all-time high is actually one of the largest liquidation levels with $264 million in contracts at that level. And then also cumulative, $9 billion in shorts. That's not to say that, they hold all the way up here or don't close their position earlier, but just as it is currently. Okay. And this is the kind of charts that I was seeing, right? This 98 to like 116 is what I was seeing when this was like a month of look back prices. But now my month only goes back to these levels, which is why we only see this liquidity in here. So I'll update you guys as time goes on this. The bullish thing would be seeing this thing start to get really lit up like this, even on the 3-month chart. Okay, it was pretty lit up on the monthly until we kind of got that shift. It's going to take some more contracts and things like that on these higher time frames. But again, you guys have eyeballs. You can see what's bigger, long or shorts. Okay, adding that with the funding rate and all these things, I do think there is room for a bounce. All right, this video is running way long. We'll probably talk about this in other videos or it will get its own dedicated video. But what are we looking at here? Right, this is total to ES. So this is all of your altcoins. Okay, so no Bitcoin, all of your altcoins, and it does not include stable coins it just doesn't include stable coins. And then what do we also do? We priced it in Bitcoin. So basically altcoins performance to Bitcoin or a cleaner version of said performance since we removed those stablecoins. But on the 3-day, we just picked up a buy signal, right? We just had the 3-day close. Okay, we had a bullish regime with a VL plus buy signal. You can see regime or the momentum down here looking pretty good, giving us that bullish cross. What's another time we have gotten this specific buy signal in this market? This was, let's see, June of 2020 and January of 2021. Again, this pertains to altcoins. So let me go ahead and pull up Ethereum on this chart just so you guys can see how it relates. All right, I'm going to get this added. Change this to log scale. Boom. Slap a little vertical line on this buy signal. Slap a little vertical line on this buy signal. All right, you guys can very clearly see where we were at in the cycle each of these times, right? Upside, upside. Just how this is already confirmed. This isn't going to go away. This isn't going to change anything. I already have it in here. And we're also in similar areas. We've touched these macro range lows. We've worked up. This chart also looks similar to Ethereum price and Bitcoin, which is also working on a buy signal on the 3-day, which we'll talk about. That's going to get its own dedicated video. But yeah, I just want to show this. This is relatively quick and straightforward. We'll see how it plays out, right? None of these things are going to be immediate. None of these things mean this is the week that everything happens. But this chart is pointing to upside. And I do find that weird that if we're in a bear market, why are altcoins looking like they're breaking out against Bitcoin? Okay. Why is that happening? I know October 10th scared a lot of people, but since then, altcoins have actually held up pretty well, or within realm of where Bitcoin has been at. Ethereum looks to be leading the market, looks to be wanting to outperform Bitcoin. So we'll see what happens. But I just wanted to kind of come on here and talk about, a few different things. The fact that we're lagging, that's really contributed to the pain. Looking at these liquidity levels, right, and then also this chart here, total to price in Bitcoin. So let me know what you guys think about that. Sorry this ran a little long. Sorry if this got a little wordy. I'm going to try to keep the videos a little bit more concise, but I'm also not working on a script anymore when it comes to my long-term video. I can tend to ramble on a little bit. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys sticking to the end of the video. If you did so, if you guys need anything, just let me know in the comments or in the Discord. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.